Okay, so I had my unicorn drawing in process, but due to technical difficulty, I'll be starting over. So here's a sneak peek on what you will be drawing. And let's get started on a fresh board. Okay, so let's start at the top of our page in the middle, and let's go down to about here. Okay, and once you're here, let's go to the right about this much, and we're gonna put a dot. Okay, I'm gonna use my 2H pencil, but I'll darken it up with my HB just so it's easier to see. Okay, and from here, we're going to be drawing a big circle. This is going to be for the horse's head. So I'm going to draw a circle. Let's make it about this big. Once you're comfortable with the way your circle looks, go ahead and sketch it out. Make sure you're drawing lightly so that we don't have a hard time erasing later. Okay, and then let's find the center of that circle. I'm going to put a dot at the center of my circle, and I'm going to go from that dot down and to the left. So let's go with my eraser, down and to the left, about here, and I'm going to put another dot right there. So we're going to put another circle about here, and I'm going to put it right under right here. So I'm kind of freehanding the circle, but go ahead and draw it out with your eraser if you need to, okay? And if it looks really rough, that's totally fine too. So now we're going to go from the top of our head to the left side of this smaller circle. So I'm going to go from here, from the top of my circle down to here. I'm going to use my eraser to show you what shape I want. I'm going to curve just a little bit, and I make a straight line going down and going around that circle. Okay, so we're cutting off just a little bit of that top of the head, but that's fine. So once you have that shape, draw it out with your pencil, keeping it light. Okay. And at the bottom of the smaller circle, we're going to draw the mouth. So let's draw the mouth from here. From the bottom of the circle, let's draw a smile. So the smile would be about this big. And then we're going to follow the smile up towards the head. And I'm going to stop about here. So from here, I'm going to draw the rest of the horse's head. So from the top of the circle, again, I'm just going to curve out and down to the end of the page. And then from the end of this head, I'm just going to go down, curving out for the neck. I might even make that a little bit straighter. Yep, that looks better. Okay, and from here, where the head meets the neck, I'm just going to make a diagonal line to kind of form the horse's head a little bit more clearly. And then, lastly, we're gonna do the body. So in the reference I'm using, the horse's body is kind of facing away from the camera, and the head's kind of the focus. So I'm going to go down the neck just a little bit. I'll start about here, and I'm going to curve out for the body. If you don't like the way that looks a little bit funny, you can go ahead and kind of make the body the way you want. I'm just going to keep it like this to keep it simpler, because I want to focus a lot on the head. So now that we have this outline of our horse, we're going to just erase what we don't need. So the circle here, the circle in here, this little circle. We're going to come back after I erase everything that's unnecessary. Okay, and now we're back. So I'm going to start by adding a couple details on the horse's head to just give him a little bit more dimension because right now he kind of just looks like a dinosaur, but we want to really make him look like a horse or a unicorn, whatever you prefer. So I'm going to start at the top of the head, and I'm going to go down to about here. There's a little bit of a bump near the horse's eye on the other side of his head. So at my dot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to curve out like this, and then I'm going to curve back into the head. Nothing crazy. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing for the nose. There's a little bit of a bump on the nose. So I'm going to go down near where my circle was earlier, and I'm going to just draw a dot and make a little bump. Okay, so from this bump, let me just shape out my muzzle a little bit more. You can see a little bit of the horse's nostril on the other side in my reference. So from this bump, I'm just gonna skip a little bit and then just curve down and out, since you don't really see much of the nostril. And then we're gonna go in and draw the more visible nostril. Now it's a little bit of a weird shape. I don't even know what I would call that. It's kind of like a triangle-y almond shaped thing. I don't know, but I'm going to start at the top, or at the bottom I should say, of my bump, and I'm going to go out into the face about this much. Put the dot right there. And then I'm going to draw a little bit of a sideways frown that goes down, curves down, and at the bottom here, it dips, and then it curves up into the left, and then it goes all the way up back to the top, but it doesn't quite reach that curve. There's kind of a little overhang there. Okay, and now that we're down here, we might as well just draw the mouth. So where my circle meets my bump, I'm going to draw his mouth. In my picture, the horse isn't really smiling, but if you want to make it look like it's smiling, just don't make it super obvious. It's getting there. Let's work on the eye. I think that'll help it a little bit. So from the bump where I put on the head, I'm going to go from the bottom, and I'm going to go out into the head about here. Let me put a dot right there with my HB so you can see it clearly. Actually, I'll move it over to just a little bit. Okay? So at this dot, I'm going to draw a frown very lightly. This is the top lid of the horse's eye. Okay? And then we're going to turn that frown upside down, and we're going to draw a smile at the bottom for the bottom lid. And you got an almond shaped eye. So now I'm going to add some eyelashes. So the eyelashes on a horse point towards the back of the head. So I'm only going to draw eyelashes that point towards the back. And I'm going to add a little bit of an eyelid. So I'm going to just draw another frown on top of my eye. And I'm going to draw another little curve right here, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. And I'll just draw a curve here and here. That's my eye, but I'll color it in later. Now, let's draw in the ears. In my reference picture, the ears aren't really just sitting on top of the head. They're kind of to the side of the horse's head. So that's how I'm going to draw them. I'm going to go up from the end of the eye about this far, and then I'm going to go to the right about this far, and I'll put a dot right here. This is where I'm going to start my ear. I'm going to start my ear going up like so, and then going out like this. I think I'll make it a little bit longer. So horses' ears aren't super pointy and they're not super round. They're kind of in between. Not really a cat's ears, not really a panda's ears, they're horse's ears. So I'm going to make a little loop at the top, and I'm just going to curve back into the head, but I'm not going to touch right here. I'm going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to create an ear flap. So at the top again, I'm just going to create a curve to show the inner ear and the outer ear. So we want to do the same kind of shape except a little bit smaller because it's on the other side of the head. So I'm going to go down where this ear touches from the head, down just a little bit about here. And I'm going to curve up and out. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to loop at the end and touch the head. And don't forget the flap on the head. Alright, and now we have our horse's head. So let me just erase what I don't need and we can get started on the hair. Okay, so now that we're all set, let's start working on the mane of the horse. So I'm going to bring back in my reference picture and I want to show you what this horse's hair looks like. She's got a lot of shine at the top because that's where the sun's hitting. And it looks really shiny and just really bright. There's a lot of color there. And even though this horse has kind of a short mane, I think I want to make it, or make my horse's mane a little bit longer. This is another kind of horse that we have a reference of, and they have really long hair. He's even got some bangs. So I think I'm going to kind of base my unicorn's hair more off of this, okay? I'm going to be doing a unicorn so that anyone who wants to do a unicorn can just follow along and they know how to make the horn. So if you want to draw a horse, just don't include the horn. Alright, and now that I actually mentioned the horn, we should actually probably start with that. So I'm going to find where I think the middle of my horse's head is. So if we're looking at the horse's head, I think the middle would be along here. If you look at this horse's coloring and pattern on his head, this looks like it would be the middle of the head right here, the forehead. So I'm going to put my forehead about here, and I'm going to put a little oval at the top where the horn is going to be coming out. Kind of like I'm putting a sticker on my horse's head and saying, this is where the horn's coming out. Okay? So from the middle of this oval, I'm going to go out as far as I want my horn to go. And I think I'm gonna make a long horn. So I'm going to put my dot right here for my horn. And once you have that dot, you can just go on and draw a line out to the ends of that oval. It's okay if you're not super precise. If you're drawing light, it should be easy to edit and just fix. Okay, and I'm going to smooth out this curve right here. We want to make it look like the base is an oval because it's kind of like putting a cone on top of your head. You're a unicorn, but the top of a cone or the opening of a cone is really round, so you want it to be bigger than the point, right? Okay. So now we don't need what's inside the horn, so I can erase some of my ear, that oval, and a little bit of the head. Okay, so now that we have that, let's add some depth and dimension to our horn. I'm going to start at the top of the horn, and I'm just going to start making some sideways smiles and curves. They get bigger the further down the horn they are, obviously. And where these curves meet the line, we're going to draw a bump. So I'm going to erase my lines along my horn first, and then I'm going to start adding some bumps. Okay, so I changed my mind. I'm just going to leave the lines for now so I know along what line to make the bumps. So I'm just going to start. So at the bottom, where the base touches this curve, I'm just going to draw a bump. And then you just kind of keep going with the bumps. You want to make sure that it gives the feeling that the horn is twisting and turning, and that's why we have all these bumps on the horn. Kind of reminds me of twisty candy or something, but I don't know, it might remind you of something else. Licorice, maybe. I'm going to keep the lines in for now, but I'm going to erase them after I outline. Alright, and we have our horn. So now let's start making the mane of our unicorn. So I said before, I'm going to keep my hair pretty long, and we're going to do it in chunks. We're not just going to draw a big piece of hair here and try to make it work. So let me show you how to do that. We're going to start behind the ear, where the head touches the ear. I'm going to put a dot there. And I'm just going to curve down and out to make the shape of the hair I want. So let me do that with my eraser first. I'm going to curve down and out like that. If you want to keep your hair short, that's totally fine too. Make sure you're looking at your references to see what the short hair looks like. But I'm going to draw my curve out like that. And then once I'm happy with the curve, I'm just going to make a point and follow that hair back up to the head. And make the hair kind of go over the horse's neck here. We want to make it look like there's volume on the hair, okay? And I think I might add another little chunk right here, okay? And I'm just gonna keep adding hair. So I'm gonna start again. I'm gonna overlap it, so I think I'll start right here. Make a pretty skinny chunk that gets thicker at the bottom. And I'm just going to connect it like that. This is your time to really make your hair look how you want. Everyone's unicorn or horse is going to have different hair. And that's totally fine. Okay, and here I might add another little chunk of hair because hair can be layered, so why not? Alright, and now that I have that, I'm just going to erase whatever I don't need in the neck, and I'm going to erase part of the back of the neck too, and then I'm going to get started on the front hair. Okay, so now let's get started on the front of the horse's head with its little hairs. In my reference picture, or my practice picture, I have hair that kind of goes in between the ears here. So the only difference is that if you have a unicorn, you're just going to be drawing some hair that goes behind the horn or in front of the horn. And I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to start in the front part of the ear here. And I think I might have a piece of hair that goes out like that. So I'm going to use my pencil. I'm going to start right here. I'm going to use my pencil and kind of curve down and out, and I'm just going to curve back up to the head. So it kind of looks like it's touching the eye, but that's totally fine. Maybe my unicorn's fashion just needs its hair in from its eye. But we're just going to draw that shape again with our eraser, or if you feel like you can do it in the first try, go ahead. But make sure you're drawing lightly so you don't have to have a hard time erasing. Okay, so I erased part of my horn that I don't need, and we're just going to keep adding chunks of hair. So I'm going to add a chunk right here that's coming up. It's going over this ear, but I think I'm going to have it behind the horn. So I'm going to skip the horn and draw the hair going out like this. Okay, and it's up to you on how you want to make your hair on your unicorn look, or your horse. If you're good with this much hair, then you're totally ready to start outlining. If not, go ahead and add more hair. Okay, so now that I'm done with my unicorn's hair, I'm going to start working on my background. Now there's not much background to work on because of the way that I drew the horse. I might add a couple of little lines to show where the unicorn's body kind of changes from front leg to stomach to hind leg. So let me do that right now. Okay, it's up to you on how you want to draw a unicorn. But now let's do a little bit of background. So since I'm doing a unicorn, I might do a field. So I'm going to do a horizon line. And some bushes probably, so let me draw some shrubbery in the back. Just this little chunk's gonna be all bush in the final. And I might add some clouds too, so let me add a cloud or two. Okay, and I'm just gonna keep tweaking with my horse, so let's see how we can make our horse's bodies look a little bit less funny. So I think I'm gonna make my horse's body just a little bit skinnier. Let's see. I might do this. Or I might make it fatter. Maybe if I add a fence, it'll look a little bit more solid. Add a little bit more neck. And I'm just gonna start playing with my background to add some depth into this picture. If you're happy with the way that your horse looks, then you're totally ready to start outlining. Okay, so I think I'm good with the way my horse looks, so I'm going to start outlining. If you don't want to outline, then you're done. You can move on to coloring. But if you do want to outline your horse, then this is the time to start outlining. Okay, I'm going to be using my thin Sharpie pen to outline my horse. If you want to make a thicker line, I would not recommend it because you might lose your detail. But if you really have to, then you can outline with that. I would recommend using a thinner Sharpie or a thinner pen to outline. Sometimes I use regular pens at home when I want to outline my illustrations. It's up to you. But anyway, let's start outlining. Since we have a lot of detail in this picture, you want to make sure to go slowly, okay? If you rush through it, you're not going to get the result you want, because sometimes you just have to go slow to get a really nice picture in. It's okay if it takes a little bit longer to do that. You don't want to rush your pictures, okay? And your lines may not be super straight, and that's totally fine too. Just try your best, and your hand just grows more steady the more you practice. Okay, and this horn is probably going to be the most difficult part to outline just because there are a lot of really small bumps and curves. So make sure you take your time when you do it. We want the horn to look super nice. Nice. Okay, I'm just gonna keep coloring in the hair. So if you don't want to outline your hair, that's fine. I've already outlined mine, so I'm just gonna show you how I would outline or color. And the way that I'm going to show you is not going to require line art or no line art. So it should work whether or not you outlined. Alright, and there is my unicorn. So up next we're going to start coloring our unicorn. But before we do that, I think I'll start with a little bit of practice. Oops, forgot to draw in the neck. We'll do a little bit of practice, practicing some shine on the hair before we get started with that.